What's up, vintage lovers? Welcome to the Vintage Aquarium. I'm your host, Kate, a writer and storyteller with a passion for all things vintage. Each week, I'll talk with other sellers and collectors about their vintage passions too. We'll share tips and resources, and together, discover the stories and history behind our favorite items. It's time, so let's dive in. Welcome to the Vintage Aquarium podcast. My name is Kate Rader. I'm your host today, and I'm beyond thrilled to introduce our guest today. Her name is Tina Hudson-Beamer, and she's the owner, proprietor, stylist at Tina's Timeless Threads, a retail store located in downtown Dover, Delaware. She specializes in styles from the 1920s through the 1990s for both men and women, and not only has an incredible store filled with real vintage clothing and accessories, she also offers a wide selection of size-inclusive vintage-inspired looks as well. Welcome, Tina. I'm so excited that you could join me today on the Vintage Aquarium. I have lots of questions, and I can't wait to pick your brain. All right, so Tina, first, for anybody that's following along with, would like to follow along with us, what are your socials and your website address?
Okay, so my Instagram and Facebook, it's at timelesstinas. And for my website, it is timelesstinas.com. So pretty simple and pretty easy. So you can follow along on all of those channels.
Yeah, those are easy to remember. Okay, that's great. Yeah, because you have some great stuff up there. So definitely check out the Instagram page and the website.
Thank you.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you was, how did you become interested in vintage clothing? When did this happen for you?
Okay, I would say really my style has always been vintage, but really getting into collecting vintage clothing, I would say maybe the last maybe 15 years, more so for just wearing it. So as far as selling vintage, I have been doing it for a little bit over 4.5 years. It'll be 4 years for my store.
Okay. All right, great. So what kind of vintage clothing inspires you the most?
Okay, I would definitely say I'm probably more of a 60s, 70s kind of girl. I literally wear it all. Anywhere from pieces I've worn from the 20s to really I stop at the 70s. I'll do some 80s pieces, but I really like the 60s and 70s is probably my era that I probably gravitate towards the most.
Okay, yeah, I can tell from what you're wearing today that you love the 60s. With your cute hat and your dress, that's awesome.
I know, I love the berets.
A beret is such a good look for pretty much everybody. Whether you have long hair, short hair, it really works for everybody, I think.
Exactly.
So when someone visits your shop, Tina's Timeless Threads, what can they expect when they walk in? Like, what kind of pieces do you sell?
Okay, so I tell people, if you are coming to my store, give yourself time so you can really look around the store. It can be a little bit overwhelming when you walk in because there's a lot. Like as soon as you walk through the door, I have like nicely decorated tables with little novelty gifts for people to shop and peruse and look at. And then from there, you walk into my albums. And then as far as the clothing, so I've done a couple of different things as far as how I set my store up. Like I've had it separated by voluptuous sizes, separated by themselves. I've had like skirts and bottoms separated by themselves. But what really works well for me actually is just doing everything by color. So I do the Roy G. Biv system and I color my store that way. So when you're looking, you might look at a rack and it'll have skirts, it'll have shirts, it might have shorter dresses on it. So it's easier and it's more appealing to the eye when customers walk into the store to shop. So what you will find a combination, I would say 99% of my product is true vintage. But I also carry vintage inspired pieces as well. So you will find a total mix of vintage and vintage inspired pieces. From my mannequins that I decorate, I will take vintage inspired and mix it up with some vintage pieces, whether it's accessories or, a vintage top and a vintage inspired bottom. So I try to make it fun and easy for people to shop it and give people ideas of different ways to combine the two worlds.
That's a brilliant idea to organize by color. I would think it would be a challenge for a vintage shop because your inventory, every piece is different.
Yes.
All your sizes are different, your styles are different, your eras are different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really interesting. So do customers come in, are they looking for a special outfit? Do they just shop for vintage in general? Like what are people looking for when they come see you?
Okay, so I get a little bit of everything for that. So a lot of people who are looking for all the theme parties that are out there, it's been a lot of that. I would say last year and a lot this year, a lot of people looking for pieces. 70s and 80s are huge when it comes to like the different themed events that people are shopping for.
Really?
Yeah, it is. 70s and 80s, always. Those are the most two popular themes that people throw. 70s and 80s. And then I do have a lot of customers who are repeat customers who come here to shop because they not only like vintage, but they know they can come here and get something that's one of a kind, that's unique and that's different. So like my loyalty customers, they're the ones that come in here because I literally put new stuff out every day. They come in to see what's new, what's that unique one piece that they might be able to get to add to their wardrobe. So I get a little bit of everything. We are the capital of Delaware, and where I am, I'm in the historic area of downtown Delaware. I'm Delaware. So we also get people, yeah,
As
right.
you can hear from the siren. Typical downtown noise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we get people who literally are here, like they wanted to take advantage of checking out the Capitol. So we do get quite a bit of tourists here. Like we're surrounded by the hospital, so visiting nurses, the military base, people who might be here, for like a year or just for a couple of weeks or months from the base. And then we have a downtown university also, where we get like that traffic and parents coming to visit their kids, so they come out and about to check downtown Dover.
So in addition to like these parties, these theme parties that you're talking about, do you have customers that incorporate vintage into their everyday wardrobe?
I sure do. I do. I do have customers, like I said, like the loyalty customers, that they sign up to my loyalty program. They come in, on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis to check and see what new vintage pieces I have that they can add to their assortment and their selection. So I do get quite a few customers that come in specifically because they are looking for vintage items.
Okay. And so can you describe some of that a little bit to me? Like, what are some of the things that they like to wear, especially like men and women? Because I know that you have a really good customer base for both.
I do. Okay. So a lot of the young kids, they come in and they're looking for that 80s, 90s, and Y2K. And
Okay.
to me, it's vintage, but it's not vintage. So I don't do a lot of the Y2K. I do have some pieces in my store, obviously. But my focus is anywhere from really the 40s to like the 70s. That's my biggest focus as far as my product on the floor. You get a lot of the young kids who do like the 70s. They're always looking for bell bottoms. It's hard to come across bell bottoms, but I actually do luck out and have quite a few on the floor that they can look through and source from. So a lot of just like the one-off pieces for people who are like lifetime collectors of vintage. When they come in here, they're looking for like that cool, one-of-a-kind grailed piece, if you will. So like I have one, she literally is in her 60s. She said since she was 17 years old, she has collected vintage. I've been to her house because during COVID, during the shutdown, she literally shopped me online all the time.
How great. How
and
great.
I would go drop off her packages. And I've been to her house and oh my gosh, her collection is amazing. But like she looks for like the cool mod 60s dresses, anything that has like the bell sleeves. So she's really in the 60s and 70s, but she buys it all. So she's a really good customer. I met her when I first opened. I remember my store looked totally different. I had a mannequin at the front that had this cool 70s, like it's hard to describe, like all these different color pieces on it. It was a gown. And this lady with this big old afro, she took her head in and she said, I want that dress. She said, put it on hold for me. I'll be back the next day. And
wow.
Yeah, seriously. And she came in here, and when she comes in, she literally spends almost the whole day with me, shopping, looking for those really cool, unique, one of a kind vintage pieces. So it's a lot of fun when she comes in. She's actually coming in tomorrow.
Okay, that's awesome. So she wanted that dress sight unseen. Does she only sharpen her size, like things that she can wear, or does she collect other pieces too as well? Oh wow.
This woman, if you saw her house, she collects um glassware, she collects like old memorabilia, she collects like her furniture is all vintage. She had this cool lucite kitchenette set. It's the coolest thing.
Wow.
How anything and everything that is vintage she collects, and I sell a little bit of everything from perfume bottles, so I know what she likes. So she's a person that, like, when I do go out looking or sourcing, I know the type of things that she would want, so I do look for some of that stuff for her when I do go out.
She sounds fascinating. Like that's like the best kind of customer.
She is the most interesting customer. We had an event called Oktoberfest here, and she was in the store. She spent that day with me, and we had these two other guys. She's from New York. And we had these two other guys in here from New York as well. And oh my gosh, they got to talking about their experience in the New York dance scene in the 70s. And I'm telling you, it's on my Instagram. That whole conversation, I would put that on my Instagram because I recorded the whole entire thing. It was the most interesting conversation. At some point in their lives, they passed each other at these crazy clubs in New York in the 70s.
Wow. What a cool story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about vintage and collecting is that you get to hear people's stories. They're just so fascinating.
Yes. And you meet some very interesting people. Very interesting people.
That's really cool. So tell me a little bit about what men are looking for as well.
Okay. So what I sell the most in the store is really 60s and 70s. And that's what I primarily have the most of when it comes to men's product. So I've had some 40s and 50s pieces, and those pieces sold more at like vintage events. Like when I went to Brooklyn, New York, I think I had two pieces. One was from the 40s, a suit was from the 50s. Like they literally sold right off the bat. Here it's more 60s and 70s pieces.
So what is that, like leisure suits?
Yes, leisure suits sell very, very well for me.
Okay.
And it's so strange, right? I have probably had about maybe 15 leisure suits in this store. And between online and just kids who are buying them to wear to the prom, and just people who just come in, they try them on and they just have to have them. I have sold all my leisure suits. I'm down to 2 green ones. So obviously green is not a good color. I just cannot get those 2 to go. And I have like a short sleeve Levi's pinstripe one, and a 60s like cream color one. Those are the only 4 that I'm sitting on. But I am telling you, leisure suits sell very well for men in my store. Seriously, like you have these young kids come in and you'll just show one to them and they think it is the coolest thing. If you go on my Instagram page, you will see some of the like cool people, like we dress it all up and how cool they look in the store wearing them. And most of those people have bought those leisure suits that they are wearing on my Instagram page.
Oh, wow. I love it. I love it.
So yeah, so it's
That's so great.
It is. And it's a lot of fun because it's like their reactions to it is just priceless. Now, when I get gentlemen who actually grew up in that era and they see the leisure suits, they're like, oh my gosh, like really? But the kids, they love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a man can look good in a leisure suit.
I'm telling you, these kids, they make it look good.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about it being, just some of the solutions that you have to stocking your store where you have different sizes, different eras and things like that. So I hear that one of the ways that you're addressing this situation also is that you've been working on designing your own like clothes for your own line.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so we're really, really excited about that. So I am working with a local designer, seamstress. Her name is Cherish Marie Vintage. And I have a whole bunch of vintage fabric. So the first thing that we did was, okay, we met, we talked, we wanted to see if we would work well together. So I had this cool fabric. I didn't know what era it was, and I didn't know what the fabric was. That's a challenge for me knowing fabrics. So Marie Cherish is awesome in helping me with those areas. So she did a burn test. We found out that it was rayon. It was a 1940s rayon fabric. And the first piece that we made was this really cool, it has like it's called Dover irons on them. Isn't that like priceless? Dover,
yeah, right.
Dover
Just
irons.
matches.
Yeah. And
so appropriate.
And she made this really cool 1940s inspired style shirt for me. I think we made 4 of them, and I have 2 left on the floor. And then I've had some wool fabric where she made a 1940s long sleeve shirt. I have one of those left. And then I had this navy wool fabric. Really, we only had enough to make like a jacket and a pair of pants. So we were going to do that, the 1940s bomber style, and then the wide leg pants that were popular in the 40s, like the Marlene Dietrich style.
Mhm.
But we ended up doing a like Rosie Riveter jumpsuit out of it. It's
Oh,
it's navy blue wool, wide legs, and she added like red and white polka dots, like in the pocket detailing and in the collar detailing. So those are the pieces that we started off with. Our biggest collection will be this spring, and that is going to be a 1950s playset. So we do have a sample in store. I do have it posted online on our Instagram, and it's this beautiful vintage blue, like I don't know how to describe it, like leaf fabric. And we made the cute little shorts. We have the bolero jacket, and then we have a halter top that you can remove the straps, like if you're sitting outside and you want to tan, so that you can remove the straps so you don't have the tan straps. So we're really excited about that piece. I do have a sample in store, and our goal is to go from there and then do a spring summer collection, and then we'll do a fall winter collection. So with our collaboration, Cherish does the designing of the items. We take some vintage patterns and we kind of tweak those a little bit. And then she shows me the patterns. We talk about what we think works well, what we think we need to tweak and change. And then she designs, she makes, and she brings them into the store.
that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay. So I have to back up for a minute because you mentioned burn test.
Yeah.
So what is a burn test?
Okay, so you can actually do a burn test on different fabrics to find out exactly what they are. I'm not very comfortable with doing them, so I leave that all to Cherish. But literally, if you want to know if you're working with rayon, if you're working with cotton, there's a lot of different ways, like depending on how it smells, how it, like when it burns, does it turn to ashes or does it like turn red glow? Those things can help you determine what fabric you were working with.
Like whether you have a natural fiber or a
Yes,
synthetic fiber, things like that. Yeah, I think
yes,
I think you can look that up online too if anybody wants to know exactly the
yes,
details of that.
you can. And Cherish, like she's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, the burn test thing was so totally new to me, because when you wear vintage, you don't have to know everything about it. But when you decide you want to start selling it, then you need to do your homework and your research. And I partnered with like a lot of people who have been in the vintage world selling for a very long time. And I've met a couple of really cool people who gave me that information, as far as like the burn testing of different things, even with like some jewelry, like with Bakelite, certain ways to try to figure out if it's a true Bakelite or not. And then different ways of like cleaning your product. So there's a lot of different ways when it comes to vintage. You need to be careful. You need to be careful as far as like knowing some of your materials, because some materials you really can't steam. Some materials you can't get wet. You can't submerge in like water all the way. So it's very important to learn those things, because you do not want to ruin a beautiful piece. And I've messed up some cool pieces. So it's a learning process.
Yeah, unfortunately, we all have a little trial by fire sometimes where we mess up that beautiful piece because we didn't quite clean it correctly. I did that one time with a quilt, and I'll never forgive myself for it. Yeah, but all of the items in your store, you've cleaned them all, right? They're all in really nice condition.
Yep. So for the most part, yes. So I either hand wash, I do use a dry L system. So like your 60s and 70s, like those you could actually put in a machine depending on what it is. But I always hang them to dry. I do not put them in the dryer. But in my store, I have this sink back there. It's a nice size sink, and it is great for washing stuff. And I have like a little system where I just hang on either the rack, or I put them in this big tub with our rolling rack and let them hang on that to drip dry. So pretty much all the pieces, it's either hand washed. I do dry clean pieces, dry eld, or I use a disinfecting solution and steam if I'm afraid to wash it, to get any odors out and to just help disinfecting it and freshen it. So yes, when you walk into my store, it's a clean smell, it's a clean look. The pieces are pretty much ready to wear out the door. Alteration. So I cannot sew, and that's terrible, but I cannot sew not a lick. So literally right across the street, I use a lady, she has a seamstress business. And since I've opened, I used her. They do all my alterations on my vintage pieces. They are the sweetest ladies. Very nice, very, very helpful. And they do an amazing job with like helping restore pieces and just fixing those little small one-off things that need to be done.
So if you have customers that need to have an alteration made, you just send them right across the street.
Yep, I can send them right to Miss Gloria. Yeah, and she, I know when she sees me coming, sometimes she's probably like, if this girl and her IKEA bag walks through my door one more time, but I'm telling you, she is a godsend. She's very, very nice. She's very reasonable with pricing, but she literally can do anything. I actually want to work with her to do 60s and 70s. I've seen her actually someone give her a 60s dress and ask her, can she make something similar to it? I've seen her take a men's shirt and totally reconstruct it. So I really want to work with her, but she's so busy. Yeah, but
I can imagine.
Yeah, but she's another one, and she definitely would be great for 60s and 70s reproductions.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit too. The sizing. So
Yes.
what do you do when you're doing these reproductions, or you're making items like you're working on your own line? What sizes do you go up to?
Okay, so right now for our own line, we are doing extra small to extra large. Cherish is working on doing more voluptuous sizes. So our goal is to go up to at least 3X in the store for our own personal Tina's Timeless Threads and Cherish Marie Vintage collection. For vintage inspired pieces, like some of the brands that I use, I try to do a lot of brands that are like made in the USA or made in London or Europe or France. And a lot of those pieces, some of them actually go up to like 5X, believe it or not. So depending on what the brand is, I go up to at least 5X in some of the vintage inspired or reproductions.
Okay. All right, great. So you have a lot of stuff that in your store that's available, and also on your website. Do you have that available on your website too? Some of the vintage inspired pieces?
Sure do. Yep, I sure do. So on my personal website, a lot of the pieces are more of the vintage inspired pieces because it's easier for me to put them on there. I am slowly working on getting more of my vintage items onto my own personal website. I do sell on other platforms. I use List Perfectly to upload my pieces to these other platforms. But like the big ones like Depop and places like that, I do sell on those websites, and I have quite a bit of vintage stuff on there.
Okay. Wow. You put a lot of work. You put a lot of work into all of this.
It's a lot.
To stocking to listing.
It is. And I can tell you, so I lucked out and met this young lady who's a virtual assistant, and she and I have been working together for a couple of months now. And that's the only reason why I have so many pieces on my different platforms, is because what I do is I take the pictures, I do the measurements, I literally upload all that to List Perfectly. And then she goes on and she sends that out to all the other platforms, which is to me the most time consuming part, because each platform has their own criteria that you have to fill in, or their own different way that you have to list it. So it has been very helpful getting pieces online using her to do that.
Have you found, that's a great recommendation, by the way, for anybody who's listening and wants to speed up their process. Have you found that that's increased your sales?
It has. So I would tell you, last year, I really did not focus on online at all. It was just too much with trying to run the store, doing vintage fairs and everything else. And so when I found her, literally when we started at the beginning of the year with her doing that, like Etsy, I'm telling you, I can't tell you the last time I posted on there, and I hadn't had sales probably more than half of last year. Literally off the bat, we got like sales, a couple of sales as soon as it started. So I'm getting more interaction from people on all the different platforms. And yes, I have seen a difference in my sales online because of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. So I guess since you're talking about this now, so you also so you sell online, you sell in your store, you sell on your website, and then you also do vintage fairs, right? So
I do.
where all do you travel? That's how you and I met.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we met, which it was the one in, was it Lancaster or no, Carlisle?
Carlisle. Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
it
It was
was
in Carlisle,
Carlisle.
Pennsylvania that we met. Absolutely. I saw your booth and I beeline for it because I was like, look at her great stuff. She has such amazing stuff there.
Thank you. Thank you. So I've done a lot of the PA areas, so Carlisle, York, Lancaster, Brooklyn, New York. I would say hands down so far has been my best vintage fair. I've done some in Fredericksburg. Is it Fredericks, Virginia?
Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Yes, Fredericksburg, Virginia. Baltimore, I did my first one in Baltimore, so I do want to do a couple more in Baltimore. I really would love to get into the Manhattan Vintage Show, so I have actually sent in a couple of applications for that one. I definitely have, product that would 100% fit in with the Manhattan Vintage Show. And then there's a couple of Massachusetts I want to do, like Sturbridge. I want to do those. Brimfield, maybe. I feel like that's a lot more with textiles, but I would love to be able to been there and just finding new different ones, in different areas. I do want to do a couple more in New York. So I know they have like the Dumbo, they have Chelsea, the Fleas. I want to do a couple more of those and a couple in Philadelphia. I haven't done any in Philadelphia yet.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I think Philadelphia could be a good location too. So New York's about 3 hours for you?
About 3. Yeah.
3-hour drive. Yeah.
It was 3, but it was worth doing the event there. Like I had to stay in a hotel, and I definitely made a profit, a very good profit at that event. So
Awesome.
that was my very first true vintage event, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do these.
Yeah, you really enjoyed
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Plus, there's so much to do while you're there anyway.
100%.
So
Yep.
yeah, any excuse to go visit New York.
Yeah, exactly. So after the day after the event, the next day we went to just downtown Brooklyn, and I'm telling you, vintage crafts, vendors everywhere. It was so much fun. So
awesome. Did you do some thrifting while you were there?
It's so not really. So I can tell you this, I do source, like if I go to like New York, Vermont, there's a couple places in Vermont that I love to go to that you can get some really cool pieces. I do more shopping for myself when I go to those places than I do actually sourcing for the store. I can tell you, as far as like my inventory, it really comes from a lot of private collections. When I first started, I did a lot of, thrifting, estate sales, auctions, and things like that. But once I opened my brick and mortar, people come to you. I constantly get emails, I constantly get phone calls, people walking in saying that they have acquired, their grandmother's collection or their mother's collection, and would I be interested in looking at it? So a lot of my pieces, I get to go to homes and basically shop their closets and shop their homes. And I love that. I'm not big on like going to the thrift stores because I feel like you spend so much time, and I don't have a lot of that. And you might walk out with like 1 or 2 pieces. When I go to these private homes and collections, like I'm walking out with bulks of stuff. So I prefer that way of sourcing. I'd love a great estate sale. I will always look them up. I do. Anytime I go out of state, I look up vintage stores because I like to shop for myself. And I will look up to see if they have estate sales. So I do love doing that.
Yeah, you can find some great vintage clothing at estate sales.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a really great place to find. And I do notice, because I go to the thrift store a lot, that it's gotten hard to find true vintage items in the thrift store. And I wonder if that has to do with condition, because they will not put things out a lot of times that have a smell to them or have a little hole or something like that, even if it can be repaired.
Mm-hmm. I think some of it is some of that, but if you think about it, like some of you, like you take your bigger thrift stores, some of them have their own vintage stores. Like they literally have their own vintage stores that they've opened with a full staff with curated vintage pieces, where they have, you know, people who authenticate these pieces. So I just think that with some of it, it's not making it to the consumer because they're adding it to their stores to sell. Um, so it's several throughout the United States where some of your bigger thrift stores actually have renamed really cool vintage stores. So
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a good point. Cause yeah, they some of the bigger name ones, they do pull items so they
yeah,
can sell them online or sell them separately.
they do like, and some of them have like Etsy stores. I know there's a couple of stores in Philadelphia that are ran by these big conglomerates. There's some in New York, like a lot of different places, and they source from their stores that are like New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, where you probably get a lot of great stuff, but they're not hitting the floor because they're getting sourced to go to these places.
Wow. I'm learning something today for
Yes.
sure.
So yes, so that's probably one of the reasons. And then also because the whole craze with the whole t-shirts and the Y2K, you have a lot of young kids now that are getting into selling on Poshmark, Grailed, these different places. And so I think the market is definitely getting a lot more saturated, whereas some of them may have started with just streetwear, but they see the benefit to selling vintage, whether they know what it is or not. So they're pulling those pieces because they're cool, different, and unique. And then they're selling it themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. That cool, different, and unique factor. It
Yes.
attracts so many people.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I understand that styling is a big part of what you do. So how do you help to style your customers, you know, when they come into the store or even just giving recommendations?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yes, I don't know. I've just always liked styling. I majored in political science. Does that even make sense? I don't know why I didn't major in something like fashion because it's always been something that I've loved and I've always liked. From just like, watching all the fashion shows. Like I'm telling you, I literally watched fashion shows all the time. Looking at all the fashion channels. I did Barbizon for many years. So it's all within the fashion arena. My senior year in college, I had finished all of my requirement classes. So I had like all these electives. So I did take fashion merchandising classes my senior year, like as electives. So it's always just been something that I've been really passionate about. I like taking unique different things and combining them together and seeing what I get. So when my customers come into the store, I always tell them, if you see something that you like, always try it on. You don't know how many people that come into this store and be like, oh no, I don't like that, or no, that's not going to work. I'm like, okay, just try it on. I'll just put it in the fitting room and you just go try it on. Seriously, you have to be like that with some people. And then they're so shocked and amazed that it looks amazing on them. I think, when people look at stuff, they have this idea of what it's going to look like on them. You can't just look at it on a hanger. That's not, it doesn't give you a true representation of what it's going to look like on you. So I will just put stuff in the fitting room for people. If I take stuff back that they picked out and I see something that I think that goes well with it, I'll add that and say, hey, I put a couple of pieces in your fitting room with you. Come out, show me what you look like. So they come out in these pieces and I might recommend, something else that I think will look great with it. I love to take pictures of my customers when they try on their clothes, just so they can get an idea of, you can see it, like it's there for you to see that you look amazing in this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just put different things together that some people might not think would look well together. Or if it's someone who I know is not that adventurous with style, I'm very gentle with them, but I do, show them pieces that they might have not necessarily look at, have them try it on. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people will end up getting those pieces.
Do you mix up eras and
yes.
accessories? Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes, I do. I don't, so I don't think there should be a rule to how to wear vintage. You are you're your own individual person. If it looks good on you, if you can make it work, you are confident in it, then wear it. So I tell people that all the time. Like you get people, I say, when you come in and you buy your clothes, don't just say, okay, I bought this dress for the spring and summer, so I can only wear it for spring and summer. So what I do is I have this really cool, it's a floral summer dress, ties at the neck. And yeah, it looks spring, it looks floral, but it's such a cool dress. I literally for the winter put a turtleneck with it, a cute little black bolero jacket with it, and styled it with some black tall boots. And even during the winter time, I was able to sell that dress. I tell people, think of different ways you can wear your pieces. Just because you bought it during the summer doesn't mean you can't wear it in the winter time. My pieces are pretty much year round, literally year round.
What a great idea. Yeah, because you can buy a few staple pieces and then continue to accessorize them and add things to them so that you can wear them. Yeah,
exactly.
More than one season out of them.
Exactly. And seriously, and I get customers that come in here, like this one girl, I mentioned that to her. She honestly God came into the store just to show me. She had this T-strap blue just summer dress that had like the handkerchief. She literally did it with a cute little turtleneck. She put on like a little winter hat. She put on her boots and she came in the store to show me, you know what? You're absolutely right. This looks really good. That's on my webpage. And it's a navy blue dress, a handkerchief. She wore it with a turtleneck. And when she came in, I was like, I loved how you outfit that.
Oh, great.
Yep. And that I took a picture of her, stuck her on my Instagram.
That's so rewarding too. I think
it is.
That's awesome. All right. So that does, tie into, like, I noticed that you style a lot of things for photographs.
Yes.
For your shop. So, and I think that really helps differentiate you from from some of the other Instagram accounts out there that I've seen, because you put on these elaborate photo shoots, fully styled. How did that idea come about, and what's that process like for you?
Okay, so when I first started, it started off on a smaller scale. It's something I knew I was going to do and wanted to do because I wanted to be different and stand out. Like I said, I did bar design for many years, so I come from a background with photo shoots. I haven't done a fashion show yet, but that's on the radar. I definitely want to do one of those. But doing those type of things. So what it looks like for me is I think of, okay, what era do I have the most of in the store? What cool, unique pieces do I have that we need to get out there so that we have content for our social media pages, for our website, and and just to have. And then I start planning from around there. So right now we have one that's coming up this Sunday, and all my models are customers. They are literally people that I met from them coming in the store shopping. Every last one of them. A couple of them are my family members, so that, I guess that doesn't count, but it does. But all the rest of them, from the videographers to the photographers, literally are people that I met as customers coming into my store or through the models. So for the one that we're doing on Sunday, I have tons of 1940 suits, and they're so great and beautiful, and I don't really sell them that well. So you know what? Let's give them some limelight. So we're going to do some 40s for the next photo shoot. And with that, I'll do accessorizing with some 40s hats. It might be like a 60s hat if I think it looks great with that 1940s suit. We'll do jewelry, accessories, handbags, and we'll do some lingerie because I do have quite a bit of that in the store as well. We're going to do some fun setup shoots with that. And I don't know, I just, just literally pack all this stuff together, pack a whole bunch of accessories. I pack a whole bunch of, novelty fun things, take it to my home because we do most of the photo shoots at my home. And I lay it all out and we just play. I might put somebody in the outfit and say, you know what, that hat right there will look great with that. Let's throw it on. I send them out to one of the vintage cars or wherever they're going. And the photographers and videographers just do their thing. So when we do those shoots, my day is literally spent basically dressing models, putting the outfits together as they're coming in and going back and forth. So I get to miss all the fun parts where they go out and they're doing the shooting and all of that. My husband helps a lot with keeping the photographers on track with the right eras for the cars. So like, if I send them out in the 60s, we need to be in a 60s car, not a 50s car. So just getting them to, to understand all of that. Let's see, we have a makeup artist, and the hairstyling part, that's a lot of work. So I literally have wigs that are like vintage inspired, and we switch them all out with the girls. So we just
I love it. I love it.
we just add it's just a real fun day. You know, I feed them, I give them gift certificates to the store, they get product from the store, and it's just a really fun day. Everybody who has participated in this absolutely loves it. It's a long day, but it's a fun day for us, and we get so much content that lasts us pretty much for the whole entire year.
Well, you can definitely tell that you've paid attention to all of the little details when you look at these photographs. So folks, go on her Instagram page and you will see these photos from these photo shoots. And I think it's also very inspiring too, to like see how you can style and wear these pieces for yourself.
Exactly.
I really enjoy looking at them so much. So keep doing it.
Thank you. We will, but yep. Our next one is going to be this Sunday, April 23rd. So we're all ready for that. The team, they created this. So I created a page to get, like, we set up their times. So I have people, my makeup artists get there at 10 to get set up. And then I have the first model come in at 10:30, the first two, because I have two makeup artists. And we get them all ready, get them all set. I bring the guys in like an hour after that because we have two girls ready. So I have some guys that we can get some photos and pictures with then. And then from there, I just stagger them for them to come in and start getting their makeup done and styling their clothing. But I create a list, and I tell them all what they need, what's going on in there. So the other day, one of them put in there, okay, I'm creating this Spotify list. And I was like, that's what you're trying to say, you don't like my music? So they all get into it. They all try to make it fun. They all add their own creative ideas, even when I'm not out there directing them with the photos. The models themselves add their own creative idea or different things that they think would look good. And it all works. We all work well together. We all have fun, and it just works. So
it sounds like a true collaboration.
Yeah, it is. Yep, it is. And it's great for all of us because we all get content. Photographers who didn't really focus in the vintage arena now has a whole new arena to add to their portfolio. The models, like some of them who I met from the other models, would have never thought that they would be like into vintage, but from doing their photo shoots and stuff, like they come in, they shop, now they're vintage. I mean, they don't all just truly wear vintage. I would say half of them do. And then the other half, they have their own different styles and everything like that. And if you ever look at their Instagram pages, you'll definitely see that. But it's just a fun collaboration for everybody, from the videographers to the photographers to the makeup artists. We all get different content that we might not have necessarily gotten had we not all worked together and collaborated.
It sounds like a fun day. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that.
It's fun. It is. It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
All right. So I want to shift gears just a tiny bit because I wanted to just try to share a little bit of information with people about maybe what sets vintage items apart from modern items when you're out in the store looking, or you're out at a vintage store. Like, what are some of the things that you use to identify vintage items?
Okay. Really, sometimes you can just look at it and you can tell, you know what, I know that's vintage. But just diving deeper, your tags, like how sometimes your tag looks on there, like the 80s, they made these big tags for some reason. I don't know why. But like your union labels are a good way to look to see if something is vintage. And depending on like what year and era, the union labels change throughout the time. You can look at if it's made in the USA. RN numbers are a way to look at it. Now, the RN numbers are very, very tricky. And you can't just 100% say, okay, you know what, from this RN number, this is like 1960s or 1970s. Because from what I understand with the RN numbers, like they bought like a certain batch of numbers and they just use them. So like if it was something that like they had like tons of them left over and it was like a 1980s item and they bought it in the 70s, it might have that 70s number on there, but it could be from the 80s. So it's a guide that you could use to date your clothing, but that's not 100% always set in stone when it comes to the RN numbers. And they do have an RN calculator that you can type the number in and it'll give you a rough estimate of what that era might be.
Is that something you can find online, the RN calculator?
Yep. If you type in the RN calculator, yeah, it will.
Okay.
Yep, it'll definitely tell you, and you can use that to get an idea of where you think your error might be.
I never knew about that. That's cool. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah,
For sure.
look it up. Look it up. And then but yeah, definitely like the union labels. If it's made in the USA, like some of it, you like I said, you can just look at it and tell from like the fabric, the construction of how an item is made. Like if you turn something inside out and it's from the 50s, you're not going to see a lot of serge stitching in that. You're going to see more, it looks more handmade. So those are different things that you can use to tell and decide if it's true vintage.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have noticed that on the interior, a lot of times though, you'll be able to see the I guess the hem tape, or what do you call
Yes,
that?
it is. The nylon hem tape. Yes. You see a
Yeah.
lot of that, the ribbons or like the lace. They did like a lot of the lace with that. Another thing is like if you look at the inside and you notice that it has like a lot of extra material, because they didn't just go chopping stuff back then. Like you think about, especially like the 40s and 50s, they had to reuse, recycle. So they would just take it up and they would leave the extra fabric for you so you could take it back down if you needed to. So you find that as far as like lengthwise and also widthwise, that extra fabric and material where you can expand it out or you can make it smaller, or you can shorten it or make it longer. So those type of things you see is also a good way to help determine if that's a true vintage item.
Interesting. So you could even look inside of a piece to see if maybe it can be taken out a little bit.
Yes.
When you're buying something. I never thought about that before. How
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, you sure can. Because I'm telling you this, so like some of these pieces, like I've gotten pieces where you could tell, I don't even know how they even got their hands through these holes, but you can tell where they literally they sewed the armhole like real small and tiny. Like I take that stuff out when I see that, but they literally, like I don't even know how they got their hands in there. But if you look, you'd be surprised how many pieces people actually alter that way. From like the waist, where I've had jeans where they've sewn the waist smaller, and then you could just literally take a stitching, what is that needle thing, and just
like a thread, seam ripper.
yeah, seam ripper, and just like really just take that all out so you can get back to where the natural size of the item. So little small things like that can help you determine if it's vintage. Also, like I said, turning it inside out and depending on how it's constructed can also help you with dating the actual item as well.
Okay.
Sleeves, like the style of different sleeves that they have. Like, 80s is probably one of the easiest ones when it comes to like shoulder pads. You find an item that has like these crazy over the top shoulder pads and a big label, like, okay, you know what? That's pretty much probably from the 80s. Where items are made. So the 80s, a lot of stuff towards the 80s, 90s, a lot of stuff started being made in China. But before that, you see like made in Hong Kong was a big place, made in Taiwan, like the Republic of China, Taiwan, like places like that don't exist anymore. That you can tell if the item is vintage. Like a lot of the 50s, they made a lot of pieces like in Japan. They made pieces in obviously the USA. So some of that can also help you decide and determine an era, or also if your item is a true vintage piece.
Okay, that's really helpful. And if you want to look up some of those different labels and stuff, there are label archives online.
Yes. So yeah, the Vintage Guild, they do labels. You can use them for designers. You can use them for like hats, fabrics, pretty much anything and everything. So I do use them a lot. And another thing that I use to help with maybe trying to not necessarily date an item, but get some information on an item is the Google Lens. That's helpful also with different things.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because you might be able to find similar pieces.
Exactly. So I might have a hat and I'm like, okay, is this like 50s or 60s? Sometimes I can Google lens it, and then you'll find like maybe that same hat or something very similar to it that can help give you a better idea of of dating that.
Yeah, if you're not using Google Lens, you should be.
Yes.
It's a really great resource. And the vintage label archive is on the site that you mentioned. What was that site that you just
The
mentioned?
Vintage Guild.
The Vintage Guild.
Mhm. That one's a good one. Now that one is, you can subscribe to that, or you can just go on there and use it to for just research purposes. And that's really good. And there's tons of books out there too that's good for research purposes too. I have a couple of different books. There is like the Vintage Fashion Source book, where it has key looks and labels and where to find them. So it talks about like different styles from like different eras, like whether like what's popular in the 50s. So this is a good book that can help you with like some
Great.
dating. And then there's people out there that I don't know if she's still around, but I know when I first started selling vintage and I started doing research, I think it was like, her name is Sammy Davis or something like that, but she had a lot of really good information as far as dating, different vintage things. And then there's another Vintage Dancer. That's also a great site.
That is a great site. Yes, yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that site. Those two, I think it's a husband and wife team. They are very knowledgeable, and I use them too to help with even sometimes with styling. When I do if I want to be very period accurate and appropriate, I'll go through their website and look at different ideas so that I'm appropriate with the periods. So they're also another good one that's a great source of information when it comes to vintage.
Thank you for sharing all of that great information. I think people have a lot of searching around to do now, and a lot of good resources. So
exactly.
So thank you. All right. Well, let's talk about a few fun things. I would love to know what some of the most exciting pieces are that you've ever found that you might have in your store or that you've sold.
Okay. So these you find a lot, but I still think they're always just cool to come across and find. It was a 1970s Halston caftan. It was his gold.
Halston.
Yeah. And let me tell you this, I found that at an estate sale that I found out about on a Sunday. Literally, it was the last day. All those people went in and out of this estate sale, and that dress sat there until that Sunday. And when I walked up to the desk with it, I was like, yes. The lady said, I was wondering who was going to buy that, because if no one bought that, I was going to buy that for myself. I said, I can't believe this thing lasted for 3 days. Like, it lasted for 3 days. That's a cool piece that I love. I have, this Claire McCardle. So it is a 1940s rayon faye. The dress is definitely museum worthy. It is a gorgeous, amazing piece from the 40s. It's so hard to describe this piece. I got this so this is another interesting story. So I had just recently opened, and the day this couple came into my store, I actually was not here. I can't remember. I think, where was I? I probably was doing it in an event. So my sister was covering my store, and she met this lady. I would say 2 weeks after that, I get this call from this woman, and she says, I've been to your store. You weren't there the day I came. I met your sister. She was lovely, la, 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 la. My husband and I, we sell antiques, and we got a call from one of the guys that we source from, and he said that they have this house and that they're going to demolish this house, and we can come in and take anything and everything we wanted. They don't specialize in clothes, but she said as soon as she saw the clothes, she thought of my store. And she said she grabbed up all that she could, and she asked me, would I be interested in coming and looking at it? I was like, of course, sure. So we set up a time, we set up a date. Literally, I go to their house, and they had their whole entire garage literally set up like this amazing store. And they were very smart, because the pieces that were like front and center was stuff were like, oh yeah, I want that. They had these cute it was red and white, like poppy flower, high-waisted 50 shorts, and a crop top. Still had the tags on it, very Marilyn Monroe like. Like that was when you drove up, you saw that. And that Claire McCardle dress was just like hanging there. It was all wrinkly, but it was, you could just tell it was a beautiful piece that if it had been bulldozed in this house, it would have been a sin. So that's where I got that dress from. But the pieces that I got from that house were just fabulous. Like I got old makeup from there. I got the ladies' shorthand stuff, Kotex. That's a little so
I guess that's like a time bubble, you know, like where
that,
you're just
that place was, I still to this day, so I've been open almost 4 years. On June 1st will be 4 years. That happened when I first opened. I still am going through her stuff. Like I have a trunk in my store that you can sit on. When you walk in, it's still filled with her stuff, from the patterns from like the 1930s, 40s to the perfume bottles, like these shoes from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. I've sold some. I still have some in the store. She had tiny feet, but just in great condition, still in boxes. I know I went from that Claire McCardle dress to other stuff from this, but I'm telling you, that probably was my most fascinating and amazing haul that I've ever had. But go back to the Kotex. So Kotex created, they created these little things for ladies to use for when they were going through their menstrual cycle. It was created in 1926 by a Black female. Her name was Beatrice Kinner or something like that. It didn't get picked up until 1956 because of, one, she was a female, and because of her racial discrimination. So Kotex created one. One that I have is like about the 50s. Have I ever shown it to you? Grab it.
okay. I'm looking forward to see this.
Oh my goodness, I'm telling you this. The ladies that use this, their reaction to this thing is priceless. Oh my gosh, you got to see. Oh my God, I cannot believe you have that. That was the worst thing ever. When I went to the house, she said, "Do you know what this is?" I said, "I have no idea what that is." It seemed like it would be a total nightmare to use.
Oh, it's a belt.
Yes. But isn't that the craziest thing? So that one's probably, it was 33 cents from F.W. Woolworth and Company. And then this one was 59 cents. Beltex. This is probably like maybe 60s or 70s.
Personal belt.
Yeah. Isn't that like crazy?
Yeah, that's very personal.
Yeah, it's very personal. So that's not for sale, but I'm telling you, I love when older ladies come in and I think they use that. Their reaction is just priceless.
They remember those days.
Oh, they remember those days. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, but that haul just had some great pieces. But the most amazing piece from that was the Claire McCardle rayon foyer dress and a 1960s Rosemary Reed, still with the tags attached to it, bathing suit.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, those were some great pieces from my long spiel about that whole haul. But I'm telling you,
Oh my gosh.
that haul had they literally had counter books from the sewing, from the like your sewing places. I had one from Vogue from like the 1950s, Simplicity. It was amazing, this stuff that this lady just held on to, and it was in good condition.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much fun. What a find. What a find.
It was.
So are there any pieces in your store that need a good home right now?
Yes. So I have the two that I mentioned, the Claire McCardle and the Rosemary Reed. They're great, amazing pieces. The Claire McCardle is probably about a 24-inch waist. So it is a very tiny dress. And then the Rosemary Reed bathing suit, that's probably about like maybe a 26-inch waist. So that one's a little bit more, not as tiny, but they're both two tiny pieces, but just amazing, gorgeous. The right person needs to buy those two pieces. They're just so spectacular. Every time someone just looks at that, they're like, oh my God, that is so amazing. Like you can just feel the beauty. You can feel those stories that piece have had. So yeah, I would say the two biggest pieces that need a new home. But I have some other fun stuff in here, like some 1970s Porsche sunglasses that are really cool. Like
Oh,
I think they need a really good home. So they need that really fun person that can pull off that piece. So I would say those three pieces are probably the biggest three that need a really good home. Oh, and those green leisure suits.
and the green leisure suits. Well, we know that there is someone out there that needs those pieces.
Exactly.
So get in touch with Tina.
Please do. I don't know what it is about the green, but I'm telling you, literally two green leisure suits.
Well, green is coming back in this spring and summer. I hear green is a hot color. So
okay, well, I have two green leisure suits for the right person. I would say the one, it's a Levi's. That one, you could tell they cut that. So that's going to have to be for like a shorter guy. But the other one, it's probably about a 34 waist. And I would say the jacket would fit about a medium to large. They're both in great condition and they're just green. And for some reason, the green did not go.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to wear the leisure suit pieces together, right? You could split them up and have, two foundation pieces in your wardrobe and
100%.
Yeah.
100% like that. The jacket will look great with jeans. You can wear with other polyester style pants. The pants it's endless. You could do with anything. And even for women, so a lot of the men's polyester 60s and 70s pants that I have in store, I would say I've sold half to men and half to women. Because my model for them was my niece, and she has nicely shaped and she looked really good in them, and I think she just made them easy to sell.
Well, I think polyester's gotten a little bit of a bad rap over the years, but there are some things that I really love about it.
Right.
Like one thing is that it will last forever, right? So it's sustainable to keep buying the polyester that's out there, because if it goes in the landfill, it's going to be 1,000 years before before anything happens to it. So it's good to buy up that polyester and wear it. And the other thing is that it's very washable.
Yes.
That's a huge plus for polyester. I mean, stains come out of it easily. Like, it's super washable. You can even throw it in the dryer on low if you don't want to hang dry it.
Yep. No, you're right. It is polyester. It's one of those materials that I think people that grew up with it are just like, okay, yeah, no. But like
they're over it.
Yeah, they're over it. Exactly. And it can be it's a texture that some people might not necessarily like, but you could do so much with the polyester, like so much. There a lot of cool styles were made with the polyester pants. So yeah, you could definitely do a lot with the polyester.
And a lot of cool prints too. They made it in every color, every print,
every style, anything from dresses to shirts to pants to leisure suits to everything for both men and women.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really, really appreciate you being on here today. This has been such a pleasure for me. I learned some things. You have such a great, joyful presence, which I enjoy so much.
Thank you.
So let's tell everybody how they can get in touch with you again one more time.
Okay. So I am a brick and mortar in Dover, Delaware. I'm located at 111 West Lockerman Street, Dover, Delaware, 19904. You can reach me on my Instagram and Facebook page at timelesstinas. And then my website is timelesstinas.com. And via email, I'm tina@tinastimelessthreads.com. If you ever are looking to, sell your items, I do ask for you to call or email to set up an appointment. And you can reach me at 302-399-3224. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kate, for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully there'll be some new treasures for you out there, and you'll have some things that people absolutely need to have.
Exactly.
And so I'm really appreciative of your time and for the tremendous amount of knowledge that you shared with us today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.